So my name's Austin Fitch. I'm an admissions counselor located in Memphis, Tennessee, for Mississippi State. So I recruit DeSoto County and then a lot of North Mississippi, and then also half of Memphis, the states of Arkansas, Indiana, and Kentucky. So they got me widespread at this point. I've been with Mississippi State. This will be coming up on my fourth year of recruitment, and so it's been great. Obviously, like this past year was kind of interesting in a lot of ways, and so hopefully more normalcy will transpire this coming school year, which I'm really looking forward to. So Mississippi State, we're a land grant institution founded in 1878, founded upon agriculture and engineering. Those two programs are really two of our strongest to this day nationally, really since our inception. We have about 23,000 students, and the average class size at MSU is around 35 currently. So I don't know if that was enough for a brief introduction, but
that was perfect. Yeah,
cool.
That was perfect. That leads me into, you were mentioning kind of like this class sizes and students. For students that are interested in Mississippi State, can you walk me through the application process? When the application opens, is there a priority deadline date for application? All things application.
Cool. So our application will go live on August 1st at midnight. So I like to say when the clock strikes from July to August, like right then at midnight, that's when our application will go live. You can find it at apply.msstate.edu, or you can just type in apply Mississippi State University in Google. It will also get you there. So our application process is a general application, usually takes students maybe 15 minutes to complete. Then there's also a $40 application fee or fee waiver. And then a student's highest ACT or SAT and a transcript can be uploaded. This might be like a question for a lot of students. Are we test optional? The answer to that is yes, but I and a lot of other admissions counselors at MSU encourage students to submit a test score if possible, because you're going to have a chance to accumulate scholarship dollars based on your test score and GPA, but you can also submit it without a test score as well.
Okay.
And then as a priority deadline, you can submit the application like really anytime you would like to up until really the next fall. But I would encourage students to do it August 1 at midnight or as soon as they can, just because it's going to get the ball rolling in terms of like housing priorities, scholarships, that kind of thing.
Okay. So y'all are just having a party as soon as midnight hits. Everybody's watching to see how many applications.
Get that popcorn out.
Yeah. I remember those days for sure. You mentioned that the school is test optional, and you also mentioned needing the highest ACT submitted. Is that a super score ACT for admissions now?
We do super score, and I know this will probably be a question later on, but a lot of students are like, can I keep retaking the ACT or SAT? The last date that we accept for scholarship purposes is the February test date, and it is super scored. So
okay. So ACT is super scored admissions and scholarships.
That is correct.
Okay. All right. That probably helps a lot of students out. Just jumping up 1 or 2 more points can get to the next level.
I wish that would have been the case when I was.
I know. That's what I was telling somebody earlier. I wish I could have gotten 1 or 2 more points. Or be able to take the ACT where you just focus on that one section and you just kind of ignore the other ones.
Exactly.
So speaking of ACT and scholarships, is there a certain ACT score and a GPA combination that will get you guaranteed academic scholarship money?
So for in-state students, that starts at a 20 ACT and a 3.0 GPA. And obviously it goes, the dollar amounts go up from there. But that will award students with our baseline academic scholarship.
Okay. And there used to be a pretty seamless process with ACT scholarships. Is that still the same? Like it was just automatic when you applied for your ACT?
Yes, those are automatic scholarships. Yep. So as soon as we get that test score and GPA, like you can go ahead and check the box. You've got that award if you meet the criteria.
Okay. But other scholarships, you need to complete a separate application, correct?
Correct. So October 1st, that is when our general scholarship application goes live. And the general scholarship application, I always tell students like, that's the best chance to brag on yourself. So put as much as you can, involvement, extracurricular, honors, because once that is submitted, it goes into a pool where essentially all of our other scholarships, not necessarily directly tied to your GPA and ACT score, exist. So like departmental awards, merit-based involvement, all of that thing is located in the general scholarship application. and it has a priority deadline. I don't know if I just interrupted you, but
No,
it has a priority deadline of December 1.
okay.
So you can submit that application after December 1 and you still have a chance to get scholarships. But if you just, I mean, it's July 8th today. So students are way ahead of the game right now hearing this. If you want the highest chance of scholarship consideration, having it in before December 1st is the way to do that.
Okay.
A lot of those awards are going to start going out on December 1. Some scholarships have a hard deadline of December 1. So just a blanket statement to make it easy. It
Have it
opens
by
October
December 1.
1st. Yep, that's it. You
Okay.
got it.
So it opens October 1st. Y'all are having a party with FAFSA and the Mississippi
That's it.
financial aid app that opens. Everything's opening on that same day. And really, you need to have it done by like Thanksgiving break. You need to have that.
That would
everything just
be
to ensure.
ideal.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Another way, obviously, to pay for school, we just alluded to, is through federal aid by completing the FAFSA. Some schools have transitioned to a requirement for students to have one on file. Does Mississippi State require the FAFSA from all students?
So if you want my answer, I say that every student should complete the FAFSA. I mean, it's not necessarily required, but I think, I mean, if you're just taking my advice to any student listening or counselor listening, complete the FAFSA because, that's federal aid, state aid that you have a chance to accumulate extra dollars for, but definitely not required, but submit the FAFSA.
Okay. And so therefore, if it's not required for admissions, is it required for scholarships to be dispersed?
It's not.
Okay.
It is not.
Okay. For those that do choose to complete it, which we hope everyone does,
Yes.
is there a priority date of when it should be in?
Honestly, I've known students who have submitted it even recently, like this for this coming fall. So I always say, May 1 is sort of when you want to have all the boxes checked of coming to Mississippi State. I guess that's a loosely based priority date. But, technically, I guess there's not really a priority date for having the FAFSA in. I would say May 1 if you want,
Okay.
what I tell students.
Okay. And then one thing I forgot when we were in our scholarship conversation, so I want to loop back to that. Can you talk a little bit about some of the more unique scholarships that state has, not just the academic ones? Are there other scholarships, departmental art? I know there used to be some competitive based scholarships. Can you touch on those just a little bit?
Yes. So there are departmental scholarships. So for example, if a student is an engineering major and they complete the general scholarship application, they're going to be prompted to submit the engineering application. Same for business, arts and sciences. Those are competitive awards that will require, additional answers, essays, whatever it may be, that they'll be prompted to complete. There's also competitive awards such as our presidential and provost scholarships, which you're automatically put into that pool to complete that application with a 30 or above ACT and a 3.75 or higher GPA before December 1st. And so you'll be prompted to complete that as well. Extremely competitive awards, but, can accumulate a lot of scholarship dollars for students. There's also, like I said, anything from like Boys and Girls State to Key Club scholarships to alumni chapter scholarships. So all of that exists in the general scholarship application and is dependent on what you list, really.
Okay. Another thing that we get asked about a lot, and I know you probably do as well, is housing. Students want to know, when does the application open? Is it first come, first serve? Is there a housing priority date? Just how does the housing application process work at state?
Okay, so the reason that we all encourage students to complete the application for admission on August 1st at midnight is, don't quote me on saying it, but housing isn't solely based on when you apply, but it's heavily based on when you apply to Mississippi State. The housing application will open on October 1st, along with our scholarship application. And the reason I didn't even mention that originally is because a lot of people will hear our housing application is opening, so I have to complete it right when it opens. And that's not the case. It has a priority deadline of April 1st. So you can submit it on October 2nd or March 30th, and it's all going to be
no
when you
difference.
applied. Right.
Okay.
So if you apply on August 1st and then you submit it, the housing application on April 5th, your priority date is then April 5th for housing. So just having it in before April 1st is the key, but you have several months, between October and April to really complete that.
Okay. So you kind of reserve a spot in the housing line almost by your admissions application. And
Correct.
then you've got some time to think about your housing options, narrow down your school choices before you put that
Correct.
deposit down.
You got it.
Okay. You already mentioned engineering, agriculture programs being, unique as well as being very strong at Mississippi State, but are there other unique programs or things that state is known for that students may want to consider?
So just out of uniqueness, I would say broadcast meteorology is quite a unique one. So undergraduate and graduate level degrees in broadcast meteorology. We have a stat we show in our campus visits on screen. I was actually on campus yesterday and the day before, but around half of our nation's on television meteorologists were trained at MSU. So it's a pretty cool program we have. We were one of 18 PGA management programs, so Professional Golf Association Management. We're one of the very few programs that offers poultry science as well, which some students will pair it out with animal and dairy sciences to go to vet school. Speaking of that, we also have a vet school, which is a unique program as well. I believe there's right at 30 vet programs in the country, so it really shows how rare that it is for Mississippi State to offer that. And this is like a side note, but any student that is interested in vet school as a senior, we have early entry, so they can apply as a senior in high school. If they get accepted, they have a seat waiting for them all 4 years of college. So that kind of makes it stress-free on the student side of things, not having to do the application process.
I don't know if a high school senior understands how much stress that would take off of them later than
Yes,
having to
I
go through
thought
the
you were about to
process.
say like how stressful it would be to apply. I was like, maybe, but
No. How much stress it would take off. So
Right.
students, if you're listening, if you have a spot reserved for you as a high school senior, you get admitted into that early entry program at anything, like any early
Right.
entry program anywhere. It takes a lot of pressure off to applying to graduate school or a pre-professional like program that is advancing later on down the line. And so it will just remove a lot of pressure off of you.
Right. And then I guess the last program that I'll talk about, and there's, several things that are unique to Mississippi State, but we have a college and school of architecture. We're the only fully licensed and fully accredited architecture program in the state and currently top 25 nationally. So architecture, building construction science, interior design, and then the fine arts, all extremely strong programs as well that are pretty unique to MSU.
Okay. Another thing I wanted to ask you about, are there any new or exciting things happening on campus, whether it's a new program, it's a new major, it's new buildings, it's new developments, just anything exciting, kind of new changing on campus?
Well, I'll say this isn't really like program related, but just the upcoming fall, and I'm about to knock on this wood beside me. There was a virus going around like quite a bit last year. I'm not even going to say it out loud because I'm going to jinx it, but for this coming semester, things are looking up. So just being back in like the full swing of the college experience is probably like something that should be exciting for students to hear. My brother was a freshman in college last year, and I mean, that whole class didn't really get to experience like the full side of college. So that's one thing that I'll say. The next thing, we have a new civil engineering building on campus that's literally about to open this coming school year. And then I still think this is pretty new because it's less than a year old, but for all education majors, we actually put what's called the Partnership School on our campus, which is a fully functional state-funded middle school for 6th and 7th grade students. And it's going to allow our students in the education department to really get classroom experience for up to 3 years of their college experience. And they're advertising it as the only of its kind in the nation right now to allow them to do so. So
that's really unique. Is the school's actually housed on State's campus?
it's on the north side of campus, sort of close to, and I know you're familiar with State, but sort of close to the Sanderson on the north side of campus.
Okay.
Huge middle school, 6th and 7th grade. They wanted to do 6th grade because elementary ed, 6th grade and below, secondary ed, 7th grade and above. They've got double-sided mirrors in a lot of the classrooms so students can observe the class setting. Students can student teach there without having to drive 30, 45 minutes one way. It's on campus. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. One of the last few questions I'll ask is, you just alluded to it, it has been a little bit more of a difficult year in the past year in the education world, college world, and just in real life. What are some of the things that Mississippi State has in place to help students as they move to college and transition to that college life that helps them succeed? And it's not just in the classroom. So, counseling, health services, tutoring centers, career centers, things like that, that help students transition really well to college.
Literally all the above you mentioned, but I will elaborate. So there's tutoring available through the Learning Center on campus. There's also, if we're just talking about tutoring for a second, there's student support services, which is a really useful tool for students if you need additional test taking time for students with a learning disability, perhaps. I mean, if students literally went on vacation, like broke their leg and can't get to class effectively, that's something they can assist with as well. So that's a really useful tool for students. There's also freshman navigators who are assigned to students. These are upper class students who volunteer their time to reach out to groups, at a time of freshman students and allow them to ask questions, set up meetings. Like if they want to meet with them, I mean, you can call that freshman navigator if you get lost on campus. They'll walk you to class if they're available to do so. So that's really cool knowing that someone's been in your shoes before and is willing to take the time to reach out. Also, the Career Center exists at Mississippi State. So anything post grad, things like mock interviews for a job in the future, job interviews, resume critiques if students don't know where to start with a resume or want to beef that up before presenting it to a potential employer. They also put on multiple job fairs, career expos throughout really every semester. Students are in school for both on-campus jobs and in markets, several hours away from Starkville. So that's really useful as well.
Okay. Last question that I have, is there anything that we didn't talk about that you would want a high school counselor, a high school student that may be watching this, or if this is being used in like a college and career readiness class by a teacher, anything that we should have talked about or that you want to share?
Well, I mean, there's several things. And like, obviously, I have a state shirt on. There's a state banner behind me. So I'm pretty biased to state. And I think there's a spot for everyone at state. But the best way to really evaluate that, I would say our campus visit program is really second to none, if I can say that. We do a really great job of getting students a very personalized, individualized experience to see what it's like to be a student at state for a day, essentially. So I would recommend coming for a campus visit. They're completely free, and we offer them every weekday, Monday through Friday. You can find that at campusvisit.msstate.edu. And we also have, I don't know if the virtual aspect of this world is going to go away, just like today, which is cool. But we also have virtual visits as well. So if students want more information on Mississippi State and want to meet with an admissions counselor like myself, that's a really great way to take a visit and not have to leave, the comfort of your home. So again, I think there's a lot of great ways to get involved early on at Mississippi State, meet a lot of great people. You also have that big SEC campus experience with a smaller student population at the same time. So there's a lot of great things that I do think about state, but really I think students have the chance to really see that for themselves. And we have a lot of opportunities and outlets for them to do that.